In the Bible, Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Unfortunately, in our day and age, that's almost a curse because most people hate themselves. This seems to be a particularly modern disease. I've read that when meditators from the West first came to Southeast Asia to study Theravada Buddhist meditation, one of the meditations they taught was metta, which is loving kindness. And the method that was often taught was to alternate metta with yourself and with other beings. The purpose being that you can use the love for yourself as a basis to expand that love to individuals and then later groups and then the entire planet. However, the Southeast Asian teachers found that the Westerners had no love for themselves, and so this method was completely fruitless for them, whereas it worked for thousands of years with the local populations. The epitome of this self hate is probably the modern environmental movements, which seek to drastically reduce the human population and call humanity a parasite, as if there's nothing of value that we can provide to the planet, or that humanity itself has no personal value. These people often have no children and seek to dissuade others from having children as well, because they see anything that they would produce, any offspring that they could have, as a detriment rather than a benefit. On a smaller scale, this lack of self love significantly impedes our ability to live the lives that we say that we want because we don't believe that we deserve it. We don't believe that we deserve a significant other. Why would somebody that I would want to date or want to have a life with care to be with somebody like me, somebody that's worthless? In the same way, it prevents us from being creative and putting ourselves out there, making new and interesting ideas, making new and interesting pieces of art. We consider ourselves worthless, and so the fruits of our labors must be worthless. We don't dare ask payment for the services that we provide because we find the fruits of our labor valueless. In many ways, self love is a key issue of success that meditation seeks to address. You can't be successful in meditation without self love, but luckily you can develop it there. One of the key axioms of the meditative traditions is that consciousness precedes materiality. This is the consciousness which we use to observe in silence, to free ourselves from cyclic thoughts, from that endless chatter in our mind, which is only a superimposition, ripples on the surface of our lake of consciousness. And so, as a piece of consciousness which generates this entire experience, we partake of the same beingness as everything else, as everyone else. And so, we cannot be worth less. We are worth everything. We are a piece of the all. In the tradition of Tantra, we are all Shiva. Shiva is a Sanskrit word which means nothing, but which is also the name of the highest and most supreme God in that tradition. So, how can we, the children of Shiva, really be worthless? Now, the point here is not to intellectually convince yourself that you're not worthless because that doesn't mean anything. You can go to a million rah self help events and say, I'm worth it, and put little posts about I'm a queen and all that. But it doesn't really get you that far unless you actually believe it. And you'll believe it when you have a real experience of your oneness with the divine. When you see the divinity in yourself, then you'll have no question of your worth, no question of your value. And this extends far beyond material success or worldly success. Why did so many of the great teachers of the past, the rishis, the gurus, the saints, even Jesus himself, according to the modern tradition, remain celibate, not make much money, teach, but ask nothing in return? Because they knew of their worth. They didn't need gifts to show it. They didn't need acclaim. They didn't need power. It was their gift to the world to show us by not accepting these things that even though they were available to them, somebody of that level could certainly accumulate power and wealth and romantic partners if they desired. But they showed through their actions that their worth far exceeds any of these things. Now, it may be for us here and for those of you watching that your life path, that your desires, you do want some of these things. And that's perfectly all right. You could be a poor beggar and still be enlightened. You can be a king and be the master of all creation. It's all about mental perspective and your ability to connect with divinity through direct experience in meditation. Well, how do you do this? Exactly. So many people have sat down and tried to clear their mind to only think more and more, and they get more wrapped up in their delusions and their self hatred. Well, that's for a different video. Make sure you like and subscribe.